Only Toonami.
Love stinks.
And I'm still happy we got to have Peter tell everybody love stinks. Peter Cullen, that was the voice on the promo. So for Ryoko, for me, I mean, Ryoko's powers change from incarnation to incarnation in Tenchi. Her origin totally changes. What doesn't change is that she's always a badass. She was usually a space pirate with some sort of rich history. She's usually completely obsessed with Tenchi. And she usually doesn't want to show her true feelings in terms of vulnerability. Like, she'll let Tenchi know that she likes him, but she's always sort of joking with him and being snotty to him and sort of pushing him around because she can't just let herself be vulnerable. But I think as a character, she has a lot of heart, and I like that she's a badass and sometimes fights naked, as you do.
Sure.
So I also have another clip of Ryoko, and this is just sort of to illustrate how hard it is to sort of take Ryoko down. So this is from Tenchi Universe, and this is Ryoko versus Kione. But it's really just, and it happens early in the show, but it's a good illustration of, like, Ryoko has an immense amount of power. If she wanted to use it for evil, she could, but she's so obsessed with Tenchi, he, like, makes her a better person. So here's just a clip to show you guys that. So yeah, she's only stopped when Kione comes in with her powers, and they are usually portrayed as ancient enemies, like their family, her family, and Ryoko. So yeah, I like Ryoko. I think she's got a lot of heart, and I think in that show is, though it's a harem anime as they call them, I think what makes Tenchi, the original Tenchi shows anyway, stand out is that each of the characters are well-rounded and they aren't just there.
Right.
Like, Tenchi himself is probably the least interesting character in the show. And I think Ryoko is humanized by Tenchi and also makes Tenchi more brave and better, which is what a good sidekick, should do.
I think it should be harem.
Harem. So that's it for my sidekicks. What do you think? Did I do well?
I think you did well. Nice job. Good job, sidekick.
Appreciate it. Thanks, boss.
So I picked two fairly obvious sidekicks. We'll start with my first one, which is Krillin. And I like Krillin, a lot of what you were saying before. Like, he has moments of being somewhat of a badass himself. I think he gets kind of a bad rap for not being all that strong. I mean, he is the strongest human on the planet for the most part. He just happens to be friends with people who are way stronger than him, but that's not a dig on him. I mean, he's a badass. He's just not an alien badass. So there's times when he saves the Earth. He obviously helps out Goku and Gohan from time to time. He has his fight with Cell. He's fighting Frieza. He's encouraging to Goku. He's a good friend. He obviously has comic relief.
And he's Gohan's friend later, too.
Yeah. And he is able to grow his hair back out magically and marries an android. Like, he's got game. This clip is kind of none of those things,
Cool.
but I still think that this sort of encapsulates little pieces of each of those moments, so we can watch this.
Classic sidekick move right there.
So he's
throwing a rock at your sleeping bud.
He's trying to test him. He wants to show what a total badass he is, but
which is a weird impulse anyway. Like, that's just weird all around. Like, you know what? My friend's such a badass. I'm going to throw this rock at him just to prove it.
I mean, Krillin had been recently killed, and he's been brought back to life.
He's a little scrambled. He's a little
unsure of the whole Super Saiyan.
Gotcha.
What's cool and what's not. So this is just him overestimating what Goku is able to do in his Super Saiyan 1 form.
Note to friends in the audience, don't throw rocks at sleeping Super Saiyans.
Everyone hopefully has signed the waiver before you started watching this program. Please do not go out and try and recreate any of the stunts that you see here today. They're performed by professionals. So Krillin, sidekick, solid friend, good teammate, saves the world on occasion. I don't see how you could possibly find fault in Krillin. My second sidekick, another fairly obvious choice, is Robin. And this clip is from Batman the Animated Series, and this is Robin finally confronting Zuko in this iteration of the show. They have a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of different Robins. There's a lot of different times they have this moment.
6 Robins, yeah.
So this is Dick facing off against Zuko in Batman the Animated Series, and I think that this clip really shows sort of Robin as a character, and I really like how the interplay between he and Batman. So I think that this sums up their relationship very well. So yeah, Zuko is, if you weren't already aware, and they had already just spoiled it then, but he was extorting money from Dick's parents as the Flying Graysons and had them killed, basically. So 14,
it's a tough situation.
12 to 15 years of revenge boiling up to that moment. I find Batman's probably the best person to have if you're in a revenge situation and it's about to go down. Like he's
an angry billionaire.
Yeah, he's dealt with these kind of situations before, so I think it's a good person to take advice from. So
yeah, I mean, I think I would go so far as to say Robin is probably the ultimate sidekick, because he's certainly one of the ones that most people would remember when you say sidekick. Batman has a long history of great sidekicks. You know, he had Batgirl, he had multiple iterations of Robin. He's had all kinds of, you know, over the years, just like he had good villains, he had good sidekicks. But I think Robin both lightens Batman a little bit and allows you to see a different side of Batman and humanizes him to some degree, makes him less brutal and less dark. And, you know, like Robin generally shows Batman's sort of caring fatherly side, and also can be used and has been used by writers to show how cruel Batman can be in his training and what he expects of them. Certainly in the comics, you know, the schism between Robin becoming Nightwing and basically not talking to Batman anymore. I mean, they've painted it in so many different ways, but I think Robin is definitely the proto sidekick, I think, of the modern era, just because he's one of the first ones to have his own important backstory that affects the main character, you know.
Yeah. And has his own baggage that he's carrying around with him, and isn't just yuck relief.
Just a tough costume, that's all. Yeah, just a tough costume. I mean, if you're Batman and Robin, and you're Robin and you arrive and you see Batman's cool costume, and then you're like...
I think you would want pants at some point.
Yeah.
And you're just... Maybe for your 18th birthday, Batman would just knit you some pants or something.
Yeah, you're like, cool, I get to be a badass and kick criminals' ass. What do I get to wear? And then Batman opens the case and
Have you heard of underoos?
Have you heard of this circus outfit? But anyway, so yeah, great choice.
So my last sidekick is... I guess favorite sidekick, may not of all time, but definitely of recent times, as I've been watching Kill la Kill as we've been playing it. And I really like Mako as the sidekick on Kill la Kill, and I like the way that they handle her, along with a lot of the different things that they're sort of playing into some stereotypes and then also expanding upon them. The clip that we're showing here, I believe, is the same clip that we showed for when we talked about Kill la Kill. So this is earlier on than we are in the episodes now. But this is a speech of Mako just sort of showing her standing up for her friend and sort of growing outside of her shell.
Cool. I love the hawk.
Yeah. Fuji and two eggplants. But I like that she's very earnest. I mean, there's obviously, we've already shown these as well, but the episodes where she forms the Fight Club and is fighting against... and just trying to figure out where she is in the world, but I think that she's very grounded and centered, and I think helps the story along, but also is comic relief and sort of encapsulates all the sort of elements of a sidekick, and I've enjoyed watching her thus far.
Yeah, I think it's a good choice.
So now we will get to what is your favorite sidekicks.
The important stuff.
And we'll start off with the Adult Swim Facebook sidekicks.
So we have the top 5 are Wolfwood from Trigun, who I agree is a badass. Kuwabara from Yu Yu Hakusho. Alphonse from
Full
Metal, who I love. Krillin. So I'm shocked Krillin wasn't number 1. And Edward. So I'm shocked that, I mean, the Adult Swim Facebook page is always interesting because it feels like a lot of it is more casual anime fans who are seeing this update. So we always get sort of weirder answers.
But I would think for that, you would think Krillin were higher, mostly just because I picked Krillin, and I would think that my own fan club would have gotten the word out of my list and support me in this endeavor. But despite that, I would think sort of top of mind. I'm not surprised that Robin wasn't necessarily a choice, because I think a lot of times
people just think
anime, which is not necessarily how we think. We think Toonami shows.
Right.
But I am surprised that Krillin was not higher.
Well, let's look at the Toonami Facebook sidekick choices.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's where Toonami Facebook
That's really
page.
very similar. Krillin, Kuwabara again. Kuwabara proving number 2 in both places. Ultimately, probably the most popular choice between them.
I'll have to check the accounting firm.
He's a badass. I mean, every one of the team of Yu Yu
sure.
Hakusho were badasses, so that makes sense.
And a good name.
Alphonse Elric showing up again. Jet Black, oh yeah, my choice, showing up 4th in the lineup. And then Wolfwood from Trigun again, who was somebody I thought about, but
a lot of overlap, but
yeah. I don't think it's a coincidence that most of the shows that have these sidekicks people fall in love with are the longer running, more popular shows where there's time to explore these side characters more. You know?
and they're rounded out, and you're not just sort of instantly kind of dismissing who they are. Like, who cares about this? That's not even the main dude. Let's just get to the real story. Whereas if you have several hundred episodes, then you're out to be able to
you have more time to explore the ins and outs. So that's Sidekick. So thanks to everybody that commented. We will be having a question of the week every single week. So stay tuned. Go to our Toonami Facebook page,
which is facebook.com/Toonami,
which I can never remember. And we will have a question every week. And I think next week we're going to have a question everybody's going to be a little bit more engaged in, because sidekicks.
So engage yourselves.
Sidekicks proved to be one of the less popular ones. So for now, why don't we go to the sneak peek of the week?
Okay. Yeah, and this will be airing on this coming Saturday's Toonami broadcast. And it is a review for Hotline Miami 2.
Yeah, baby.
And my likeness rights contract has still not come through. For
you do kind of look like that guy, Vietnam vet, I guess. So this review, we'll talk more about the game after we show the review, but basically this review I wrote and Dennis edited, and we all took footage of it. Had a blast, and the game has an amazing soundtrack and was a blast to play. So we decided to write a review. It was kind of like the way I wrote this review is the way when Dennis and I were playing, our interactions went. So let's watch this and we can talk about the game after.
What you playing, Sarah?
Hey, Tom. I just downloaded Hotline Miami 2 from Steam, and it's really hard, but fun.
What you mean, hard? Let me try it.
This should be entertaining.
Look, just settle in because I'm about to go off. Now I'm gonna... Whatever. Now... Damn it.
I warned you.
This is just a Twitch game. I got this.
See, that's the thing, though, Tom. Hotline Miami 2 is actually a strategy game disguised as a Twitch game.
Pretty sneaky.
It's set in the 80s, and you play as several different characters, slowly killing your way across Miami.
Nice.
The story doesn't actually make a lot of sense, but that's beside the point. The style of Hotline Miami is pretty unique.
Yeah, and I really dig the music. The soundtrack kicks ass.
This game boils down to 25 levels of totally unforgiving strategic action killing. It's equal parts addictive, cool, and disturbing.
So even though it's super hard, you're still enjoying it? What are you gonna give it?
I give Hotline Miami 2 a 9 out of 10. It's an improvement over the first version in every way. And it's been a long time since I played a game where I didn't mind dying over and over and over.
Cool. Don't worry, I'm all over this.
So yeah.
So Dennis was basically Tom in that, correct? And you were more of Sarah in terms of your play style?
Yeah, I had been playing the game, for about a week. I had already beat the game, actually, and I was visiting with Dennis in Los Angeles, and I had decided I wanted to write a review, so I fired it up wanting Dennis to play it just to, here, check this out, basically. And he thought at first, oh, yeah, this is a Twitch game, because he plays those kind of games all the time. He was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go off. And, every time he would fire it up, he would just immediately get killed. So it was just really funny to me, and I thought that was a good way to sort of illustrate, because it definitely seemed more like a Tom approach to be like, just jump into it,
Because when I saw you playing, because I was in LA for that as well, but when I saw you playing here, I looked at it and said, that looks impossible because you just die over and over and over again. And typically, I don't mind the games where you do die over and over again, doing things multiple times, but typically that's not your kind of...
No, yeah, for
so
me...
for the line saying it's been a long time since I cared, that's probably like ever a long time. And I really enjoyed this game. I think it's super fun. I have not yet finished it. I'm in the middle to late teens of the levels. I had played the first Hotline Miami while you guys were playing 2 and then transitioned into 2. And I don't necessarily think that it is an improvement on the game in every way.
How so?
But I do think that it's good and is probably a better game, but there are things that I miss. I like the fact in the first one, I think that the first one was actually more of a strategy game than the second one. I think that the fact that you could switch between melee and gun weapons for the most part and pick weapons up and change and then also have your own melee. The fact that your masks did different things as you unlocked them. So some would be the doors would be lethal. Some would be that you could look farther. Some would be that you could, I don't even remember what some of the other ones were. Oh, that the dogs wouldn't attack you. So you could sort of build your play style around the way the level is. And now as you unlock masks, they're different people entirely. So some are just melee people, some are just 2 guns, some are 2 guys together, which is my favorite guys, and I don't remember what the name of that mask is. But I feel like the game sort of changed into walk into a wide open room and have guys shoot you from across the way that you can't get to and figure out what order you need to kill the other people in order to get to that, which I think is not necessarily as much fun. I liked figuring out my favorite way to do it, but that's just also because I'm batshit crazy.
Yeah, I can't say I agree. I think that what they've done is remove, like you said, the tools that allow you to play a particular way regardless of level. And instead they've switched it out with not even every level. Some levels you don't have, many levels in the game you don't have a choice of who you get to play as. There are some levels where you get to choose as one of the masked characters, but many other levels where you're just playing different characters because the story hops all over.
Right.
And I don't really care about the story, I have to confess, but the story hops all over the place. You're playing all kinds of different people. So one level you're a guy with a silenced pistol, another level you're a guy who has a choice of a sniper rifle or a machine gun, and then you can switch to a knife. Another level you can pick one of those masked guys. And I think the way these levels are designed are more, you have less ability to sort of freeform with it, and you have to kind of figure out how to attack it. Whereas the other one, you could sort of go, I like this kind of character, and it allowed you to work within that structure. There are way more enemies, and yeah, I agree, the rooms are way bigger, and people can shoot you from farther away, but I actually like that, and I think the movement is way better, which it has to be, because they force you to have guns.
For sure better, but yeah, and that you have to have guns, and it just sort of turns into Contra, which is not necessarily a bad thing by any means, but we were playing this on console, and I think if you were playing it on PC and had the mouse precision, I think that the guns aiming, you get just sort of boned sometimes from the auto aim. But that being said, I've played the first game and then this game, and I've played both of them probably for 40 hours now, so I'm certainly not bagging on them. I think that the very ending line of better in every way, I didn't necessarily agree with.
It's okay. You can be wrong.
Yeah, as
it happens all the time.
It's true. I feel like you're always wrong.
That's good, because I feel like you're always wrong too. So that's our Hotline Miami review. As you can see, we don't always, the scores when we do game reviews are often more about, there's sometimes a consensus, but they're often more about the person who wrote in and how they feel and what they think the game, for what I think the game was trying to achieve, I think it did a very good job. And also, I have to point out, the soundtrack has like 60 songs, and they're all amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
And games never have amazing soundtracks like that. So do search out this. If you download this game on Steam, you get all 60 of the songs. You can also buy a limited version of the soundtrack on vinyl, but I highly suggest, if you like the kind of music you heard in the review, go get the soundtrack. That's my Hotline Miami commercial. So now, let's do our fan promo. This one was, you guys have been great. Please keep sending us your fan promos that you're making. We were hoping to keep doing a weekly Kill la Kill promo, but that seems to have dropped off.
So get back at it. Kill promo cutters.
But this promo is actually an older fan promo, but I just really like it. It's almost a Criminal Threats without the Criminal Threats line at the beginning.
Right. Yeah, it's more of an image campaign Toonami spot.
Which is how a lot of fan edits are, but most of them aren't quite this good. This is really, really well edited. Anime Fan Talk. Sorry, we don't know your real name. That's your YouTube channel. But this is really well edited. The track is great. It definitely, the shot selection is awesome, and it definitely has a very epic sort of feel, and just is a good kick-ass type Toonami promo. Most of the shows in here we are not currently airing. These are shows we aired a year or two ago, but check this out.
Yeah, so good hyperspace.
Yeah, good use of the hyperspace footage. And I like, you know, we're not currently airing any American action cartoons because there aren't any for us to get our hands on that we could afford. So I always like seeing Toonami promos that kind of show the real scope of what could be on Toonami.
Right, and has been.
Yeah, so I mean, just seeing Clone Wars and Sam Jack, and then seeing IGPX and Dandy, which are sort of co-productions, mixed in with Blue Exorcist and Soul Eater. Like, it was just, it's a nice reminder of like the breadth of stuff.
The history.
We're just the best. It's just
keep constantly reminding us how great we currently are, and have
then
been
you'll get
throughout time.
Then you'll get your promo.
You too will make it onto fan promo of the week.
So please, in all seriousness, keep sending us cuts of your favorite promos. You know, obviously you can do trailer parodies, you can do criminal threats, you can do promo for a specific show, but please keep it up. We want to feature as many as possible because we love how you guys keep, you know, seeing what we do and replicating it really well. It's kind of scary. Makes me worried about my job.
And we
don't get too good.
We ask for these fan promos on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Toonami. We do it every week. So just if you reply to that thread is the easiest way for you to potentially make it on the sort of TVs.
And then let's go to our next almost final segment. We have one more after that, but you want to talk?
Yeah, so this is this week's Bloom Room, which Steve had set up as a 20 questions from Twitter. He was having people send him in questions on Twitter, and he was answering them, but he got so many questions and was doing such a great job of answering them that it honestly was just too long of a piece.
Yeah.
So we have edited down to, I believe, 9 questions with Steve.
You got close.
And we will hold the rest of them for a later Bloom Room. So if you ask Steve a question and you didn't get an answer, it doesn't necessarily mean that he didn't answer it. But thanks for everybody who was answering or asking questions with Steve, and thank you for Steve once again for making a great Bloom Room piece.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Bloom Room. I'm here with my assistant Chucky. Say hi, Chucky. Yo. And today we're going to be doing 20 questions with Steve. I think this is going to be sort of a semi-regular thing. A lot of you don't have a chance to go to conventions, and I know that a lot of you have questions for me. You ask me sometimes on Twitter or my email, and I just don't have time to answer them. So I thought this might be a nice format and give you guys a little shout out in the meantime. So I think we're just going to launch right into it. Starting with @Alora Lang. If you had all the time in the world, which anime would you marathon? I would probably start with Naruto, just because it'll probably take all the time in the world to watch Naruto. There are like 400,000 episodes, right? And I've never really seen the show. I've seen maybe 3 episodes, so I'm kind of curious. @Fifth Dream asks, did you ever have any idea when you started Toonami that you'd be doing it this long? No. I expect to be fired during, before, or after I start pretty much every job. And that way I'm never disappointed. That's sort of partially true, but working on a show like Toonami, that was something completely new for me in my career. I had never hosted anything before. And I was just surprised that anybody was interested in having me do that kind of work. So no, I had no idea. I didn't know what the kind of viewership would be for Toonami either. And I didn't know the full impact of it until I started doing conventions many years later and talking to so many of you who said that you had grown up watching Toonami. You would rush home from school to see it every day, and no, I had no idea. And so thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for continuing to tune in. We all appreciate it at the show. At Tales of Pants asks, how do you take your coffee? Orally, mostly, and black. At Divine Malzar asks, what are your thoughts on Steampunk Steve? I can't even formulate an opinion on this. I'm just going to show you a couple pictures. At Caboose Jr. asks, how many times have you lost your voice while performing a role? Thankfully, not too many times whilst performing. It usually happens after the fact. I think the only time I really lost it during a session, I was working on Digimon. And I was doing some big Digimon creature type thing, screaming and yelling and roaring. And then I had to do the voice of Poramon that day, and I couldn't do it. I actually had to cancel the rest of my session and come back in at another time. And I think that's the only time I really lost my voice. I did pass out during an audition once, and I talk about that at conventions before. That was during a Spider-Man game audition. I was right in the middle of the audition, mid-scream for doing a villain, and I literally passed out right in the middle of the session. At Oceano_star asks, who serves as the judge for the blooper war against you and Crispin Freeman? I do, and I win. Sorry, Crispin. At Inuyasha-san87 asks, why are you rarely in new anime dubs these days? Well, because I live in Los Angeles, and most anime dubs are created in Texas. Funimation seems to have most of the business with that. And there are some other ones being done in Canada and elsewhere, and I have to take the work where it is, and I work in Los Angeles, and there just isn't a lot of production happening here. It's not that I don't want to do more, it's just not available to me. At PureOMG, oh, I know this guy. Hey, dude, who/what are some of your biggest inspirations? Well, a quiet environment to record is good. Okay, so that answers the what. Who? I'm inspired every day by people around me. I'm inspired when I go to conventions by you guys, when you're dressing up in your cosplay stuff, when you're sharing your experiences with me. That inspires me probably more than anything else. As far as directly being a voice actor, I would say people like D. Bradley Baker, Frank Welker, Jim Cummings. There's so many of these really, really great voice actors. Kevin Michael Richardson. There's probably 300 I could mention right here. Just don't have time to. But I'm inspired by the people I work with on a daily basis. Watching their performances are just amazing to me. Even now, knowing the technical aspect of it that I do, knowing what it takes to get to where they are, and still having that enthusiasm every day when you walk into the booth, and still coming in there with a sense of gratitude, I think that inspires me more than anything else, and that doesn't just apply to voiceover. At Patrick Sullivan 6 asks, what's your favorite non-voice acting thing to do? Be out here in my backyard with my dogs. That's absolutely my favorite thing to do, or to pretty much be anywhere outside. I work inside studios so often that going outside is probably the best thing for my soul. So anytime I can spend time outside is my favorite thing to do. Thank you for your questions, guys. We will be doing this again. I think it's kind of a fun segment, and it gives you guys a chance to get a little bit of a shout out. It gives me a chance to hear what's on your minds, and especially if you can't make it to a convention, I think it's a nice way to pull a little information out of me. Not that it's accurate, or even informative, or even entertaining, but thanks anyway. Thank you for tuning into the Bloom Room, and I'll see you next week. Peace.
I like his cool polarized glasses.
Yeah.
Transition frames. So Steve will have the other questions he answered at some point, and in the meantime, he plans to keep doing a Bloom Room for you guys every week, and we thank him for continuing to do it. He's the best.
Indeed.
So we have one more bit of stuff, and then we're done for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed yourselves.
We have. I have. I can't speak for Jason.
I never enjoy my time with Gil. So Dana Swanson, who is the voice of Sarah and also does Mobile on the Move, would like to start a new sort of segment that she is calling
You Tweet Me Watch.
You Tweet Me Watch. So you see her Twitter sig down there. You can go ahead and hit her up. She is looking for suggestions of what to watch. So let's play her little piece that she made so you guys can see what we're talking about, and then we'll have a wrap up.
Hey, what's going on? It's Dana Swanson, the voice of Sarah on Toonami. I need your help with a new segment I'm doing called You Tweet Me Watch, where you tweet me at Dana is a Girl, a pre-2000 anime that you think I should watch. If I select your anime, then I will review it on this very show, Toonami Preflight, in a future episode.
I like that jam at the end.
So yeah, you can tweet her at Dana is a Girl, and the rules are an anime that is before the year 2000. from before 2000, because we don't want to. Dana has not. She's definitely an anime fan, but she has not worked for Toonami long, so she has not had anime in her life as a daily thing. She has to sort of be up on. So there's some titles that she's never seen that are sort of classics, and we thought, and Dana thought, it would be fun for her to get the chance to review them and have you guys see what it's like for someone to see these shows that everyone knows who hasn't seen them. Right.
And the reason we don't want her to sort of review new shows is because, some of them might be shows we eventually want to get. And if Dana doesn't like it, we don't want there to be an understanding that we don't like it. So we're going to stick with pre-2000 stuff. So anything from the beginning of anime to the year 2000, tweet Dana at Dana is a Girl, and she will watch one and come back with a segment.
Yep.
A couple weeks.
So that's pretty much our show for this week. We hope you've enjoyed this episode
Sidekicks
of Toonami Preflight. Be sure to like us on Facebook.com/Toonami to find out next week's question of the week, as well as see the actual episodes themselves. So have a good pre-Toonami week, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Hey, welcome to Toonami Preflight. I'm
Hello.
Jason.
And I am Gil, and this is our 7th episode, I believe. We should probably keep track.
Lucky 7, baby.
Indeed.
Lucky 7. So today we are going to talk the Toonami question of the week, which was, what is your favorite giant robot? We're going to talk...
giant robot people.
We're going to talk One Piece, which is one of my very favorite anime that we show. We're also going to look at Sarah, our editor, is going to show us how she cuts at Criminal Threats, and we'll give you that sneak peek. We're going to do the Bloom Room. We got a bunch of stuff, so
let's get started.
let's just get started. So I think the first thing we're going to talk about is One Piece, which
if you're not familiar, is a manga and an anime show for the last 400 years.
It's the manga premiered in 1997. It has sold, this is Wikipedia, guys, so if it's wrong, tell me, but it's sold to date over 345 million copies in Japan.
They're doing very well.
Best-selling manga of all time. The anime premiered in 1999, and it to date has over 687 episodes, which probably beats The Simpsons, I would say.
I don't know, probably, because
Maybe.
I think there's more episodes per season. So yeah, you figure 25 years and there's not.
I don't know if that's right or not, but there's a
Let us know at Facebook.com/Toonami if our math is wrong.
But so One Piece has an interesting history with Toonami, and we're going to talk about the different One Pieces that have aired on Toonami. So I think the first thing we should do is talk about where we are right now in One Piece,
Yes.
which is the Enies Lobby arc.
Yeah, so we're, I think, roughly halfway through Innie's Lobby. We have just shown episode 295, which is 5 Nami's counterattack with the Mirage, and we are going to show episode 296 this Saturday at 2:30, which is Nami's Determination, Shoot the Rampaging Chopper.
I love those titles.
I do love the titles, and it's always either a question or an exclamation point.
But I think we should show our promo. We made a promo for the beginning of the Innie's Lobby arc.
Which was the first One Piece spot that we had done in a while.
Since the pirate one, since the pirate voice.
Yeah, the
controversial.
Shanty ones. So this is not current. Obviously, for episodes, this was July-ish of last year.
This
so
arc is really long.
30 episodes ago, but they've not made it terribly far into Innie's Lobby.
Let's check this out.
Robin and Frankie are in trouble. The CP9 are taking them to the most secure location there is, Annie's Lobby. This enormous floating government installation cannot be breached. There are more soldiers than walls, and there's a lot of walls. Straw hats, and the Frankie family are outdistanced, outgunned, and outnumbered. But they do have one thing no one can plan for. One pissed off Luffy. Prepare for the Annie's Lobby arc of One Piece. Next Saturday night at 1:30, only Toonami on Adult Swim.
So yeah,
so we have since sprung forward with One Piece, so adjust your One Piece clocks to 2:30 a.m. instead of 1:30 a.m.
But I think, so for Annie's Lobby, I think that the importance of this arc for the show is that basically every character advances their power level. They all develop new attacks, and where we are in the show right now, we're sort of ping-ponging between eight different moments, which is one of the things I like about One Piece, is that it's truly an ensemble show. And though Luffy is obviously the hero, the main character, they spend time with every character pretty much through every arc, and it's very much about how they come together as a group and the way that each of them develops as a person and as a fighter. But
and I do like that it's the Luffy. Everyone's always like, "Oh, this cute little guy," and then he just mashes thousands and thousands and thousands of people.
And I like my favorite part of this whole arc is Khalifa, who Nami is fighting. Yeah, who is the bubble? Her attack is relaxing bubbles.
Yeah, the gentle massage, silky skin.
I was rewatching these episodes to sort of remind myself where we were at, and my daughter heard. Special attack, relaxing bubbles, and was like, "What are you watching?"
Yeah, and you just get super shiny, and you can't stand up,
move.
and you're just like a doll.
But I mean, I think One Piece. So, this arc is great because you can kind of jump in. You don't really have to know what's going on because it's just badass fighting, pretty much. And things are moving incrementally in a very Dragon Ball type, same kind of thing. I think that Oda's influenced a little bit by Dragon Ball fights, the way that he drags out these One Piece fights, but in a good way.
Right.
But One Piece has an interesting history on Toonami because it was famously adapted by 4Kids. And I read an article, I think it was on Anime News Network, that said that basically the 4Kids, a guy who used to work at 4Kids was basically like, yeah, we never watched the show before acquiring it. So when we got it, we were like, oh.
Been there, brother.
We were like, oh, shit, we better change this so that we can sell it to someone and then bail. So they never really had an intention of staying with the show. They just kind of turned it over as quickly as possible to sell to somebody. And so they ended up doing these legendarily bad edits, which we'll show you guys in a minute.
Yeah.
It's a legendarily bad dub, and it's not necessarily because of the casting, although some of the performances are bad. It's because they fundamentally
alter who the characters are in their arcs and their names.
I mean, they did what we kind of did with Tenchi, but we had no choice, and they kind of did. But they took out everyone who has a cigarette is a lollipop. Everyone has a gun. It's like a water gun.
Yeah.
Like Usopp at one point has a gun strung on his back, and they changed it to like a water pistol. Like it's
all fun and games.
One Piece is a unique show, and I think the reason it hasn't quite caught on the way Dragon Ball Z has in the U.S., obviously it's massive worldwide, is partially, I think, because the drawing style, Oda's style, is so cartoony.
Yeah, feels
And
for people who aren't familiar,
love it.
feels very childish isn't the right word, but it feels very young.
I think to an American
like a cartoon.
audience, to an American audience, they look really cartoony, and there are crazy things like talking animals and how they use the snails as communication devices, and like
sometimes call in the wrong attack because you use the wrong snail.
yeah, and there's a lot of comedy. So I think to an American audience, it's a harder sell on why you should take it seriously, because like in a show like Dragon Ball, the fights are obviously badass. I mean, there are comedy moments, and in One Piece, it's sort of really intertwined the whole time. And his art style, I think, can be a barrier, even though I think it's one of the best things about the show.
Yeah.
But when I've seen people skeptical about the show, they've said, I just have trouble with his art taking it seriously because it's so cartoony. But I love that.
Yeah, as a casual fan, I think you have a hard time justifying that in your mind of like this show feels like it should be for kids, but is for kids.
Yeah.
But seems like it is actually going to be for
Well, plus also it's a show with 600 episodes of continuity. That's a little tough to
right. But you
get
can,
into.
to your point, you can just jump in and they're still enjoyable, and it's not like it's hard to catch up.
No.
I mean, to figure out what's going on. So if you're not watching, you should. And if
So-
you are, thank you.
So 4Kids made this version, and they basically, we at Toonami had for years been telling Cartoon Network programming, hey, there's the show One Piece, we got to get it, we got to get it, we got to get it. And no one was licensing it. And then we heard 4Kids was doing it, and obviously we weren't super psyched about that, but we didn't know what they were going to do to it.
Right.
But so they kind of Cartoon Network programming just told us, hey, guess what? We got One Piece. We were like, cool, put it on TV. Obviously, it wasn't the version of One Piece we wanted, but sort of the business we were in is trying to get kids to get into shows. And
One Piece is better than no piece is the moral of the story.
but it is a pretty bad dub. So in fact, I want to show you guys the open to the show, which is this terrible, terrible shit-ass rap song.
No offense to anyone.
Offense, yeah, it's terrible. Let's play this rap song. That's so like that manages to be everything that we hope that we try to make Toonami not be, which is it's like
Pandering in every way possible.
Pandering in every. It's like, well, let's include some dumb rock, some terrible rap. Let's over-explain the plot of the show
while still sort of under-explaining.
Yeah, and then let's call out characters in the most ridiculous, like Luffy, Monkey D. Luffy, like just terrible. So that wasn't a good sign when we saw that. And then here, and I don't know why, by the way, that says Toonami New on it. I don't know why that's it's branded like we did it. It should say 4Kids New. But anyway, so let's look at an example. So One Piece aired on Toonami for a couple years in that version because they made like 100 episodes. It didn't get renewed because it turns out, I didn't know this, 4Kids didn't want to renew it. So it went off the air for a while. And then when we came back with Toonami, one of the very first shows you and I talked about getting back, besides Dragon Ball, was One Piece. We were like, we got to have One Piece. So it's been back on since we came back. We had to come in sort of farther into the show because we wanted to start when the HD episodes began, because it just felt like it would be hopeless to show pre-HD stuff. And so now we're showing the Funimation version dub of One Piece, which is much truer to the plot
and significantly further along in the story.
Yeah, and unedited. But here there is some overlap because they redid all the earlier episodes. So here's a side-by-side example of the 4Kids version versus the Funimation version. 4Kids version is the one that looks like crap, in case you're wondering, and sounds like crap. But just look at the difference between the dubs.
Way to ruin the blind taste.
So,
yeah.
I mean, liar, liar, pants on fire. The Sanji voice. The, hey, what's up? What you gonna do?
Yeah, I mean, the cigarettes for lollipops, we've all been there, but it's just the pointless line changes and some other just horrible
I mean, it's kind of like,
decisions.
it's like what Disney's doing to Doraemon right now. They're just, I mean, it's not a kid's show as much as it might look to American eyes like one, or it's not a little kid's show. So I just think it's a good Toonami show. It's a good, fun action show. It's probably, to my mind, other than Dragon Ball, it's like one of the perfect Toonami shows. So that's One Piece. That's where we're at. So I hope you guys watch it. It's on at 2:30 every Saturday night. New episodes to the end of time, pretty
for
much.
the next 400 weeks.
So please watch and please tell your friends. So let's move on to our question of the week. What do you think?
Yeah, so our question of the week, which we put up on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Toonami if you like it, is who's your favorite giant robot? And there's obviously a lot of different ways that you can cut this question depending on how much of a robot minutia person you want to be.
You can just say nerd.
Nerd. So who is, in no particular order, who is your favorite?
Yeah, I had trouble with this
robot?
because I'm a huge robot nerd. And I
Picked first and took all the good ones. So
I did pick one that I told you I was going to take, but that's okay because you do that to me all the time. So the first robot I wanted to talk about is Giant Robo. And Giant Robo has been around since the 60s. He's created by a guy named Yokoyama, who did Gigantor, Tessogen 28. That's his best known giant robot. And I love Gigantor, and obviously Mike Lazo, who runs Adult Swim, Gigantor is one of his favorite robots of all time, so shout out to Gigantor. But he also created Giant Robo, who isn't as popular as Gigantor, but the difference between Giant Robo and Gigantor is Giant Robo basically will only work with someone who's good. Gigantor will work with whoever operates Gigantor. So in the 60s, there was a show called Johnny Sacco and His Flying Robot, which was a live-action sort of Gigantor, and we'll show you a clip of that in a sec. But I want to show you a clip first of the reason I got into Giant Robo was not because of that show, although I have watched that show. It's because of an animation, an OVA that came out in the 90s called Giant Robo, The Day the Earth Stood Still. And the guy who directed that, Imagawa, directed G Gundam right after. So it's very much in the style of G Gundam. I absolutely love the art style, and Giant Robo as a robot is just, I love the basically Egyptian design influence, and I just think he's one of the cooler designs. It's really, for me, whether you like a giant robot, is almost always mostly about the design.
Yeah.
So here's a clip from Giant Robo, The Day the Earth Stood Still, with Giant Robo being a badass.
As Giant Robo flies into space and kills them all. Lack of oxygen.
I like that Giant Robo is not like practical. He's a just ridiculously huge robot with a rocket strapped to his back, and that
you just hang on to the side.
Daisaku just hangs onto the ladder like, it's cool, I got my blazer and my shorts.
Yeah, you would think strategically you could just take him out and then it'd pretty much be over.
But yeah, so I also want to show where Giant Robo came from. This show came out in the 60s, and it ran in syndicated American TV, and I do remember seeing it as a kid, but like very briefly in the 70s, in the early 70s.
Right.
And it's called Johnny Sacco and His Flying Robot, and it lasted, I think, one season. They had like 40 episodes, but basically it's the same story. It's Daisaku Kusama is the kid and Giant Robo, and they're solving crimes and, killing people. Because it was the 60s. So I just want to show, because I like the fact that this character's been around forever and just has different interpretations. So let's see that clip.
Shout Factory TV, changing the channel.
For the first time on DVD, Johnny Sacco and His Flying Robot, the complete series. All 26 original episodes of explosive kaiju battles, various alien takeover plots, and mind-blowing heroics. A 4-disc collector's edition set featuring a 16-page book with essays and rare photos. Join Johnny and his giant robot for this classic, epic sci-fi fantasy series. Johnny Sacco and His Flying Robot, the complete series. Now on DVD.
So yeah.
I mean, the live action seems a little dated, but the animation's really held up for being 60 years old.
One small fact about Giant Robo, when we did Giant Robot Week at Toonami, I did work very hard to try to get Giant Robo to be one of the shows we showed, but it didn't work out.
Not hard enough.
Well, it wasn't my fault. Let's just leave it at that. So my second favorite Giant Robot is not really going to be a surprise to anyone. I'm just going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and show the clip and it's going to kind of be obvious to everyone.
So you're keeping it a surprise despite the fact it's not going to be a surprise.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Big O, baby.
Pretty great.
So the reason we got Big O at Toonami is because Sean got a DVD, or it might have even been a VHS from
We're that old.
from Bandai, and it had some clips of the show cut together to that song, which is a very Queen, obviously Queen, Flash Gordon type song. And it just
Save
was
every one of us.
And it just was that song cut together with various shots of Big O just destroying things, and we were like, yes, we must have this show now, yes. And then we heard Steve Bloom was going to be the voice of Roger the Negotiator, and we already knew him, obviously. So for us, we almost got the show sight unseen. We said we wanted the show without having seen any episodes. We just saw that footage, and we're like, yes.
It was a good decision.
And then, obviously, we have a sort of a rich history with Big O because we aired season 1. It wasn't popular enough in Japan to get a season 2 on its own, but Mike Lazo wanted to see if we could do a season ourselves that we paid for, or paid partially for, and ran simultaneously in the U.S. and Japan. So might be the first time anyone's done that. I don't know. So Adult Swim actually premiered Big O season 2.
That's a co-production.
Yeah, as a co-production, and I worked on that pretty heavily. So I'm just going to show our Toonami. We've done a lot of great Big O promos over the years, but I still like our original minute and a half.
Adult Swim action promo.
Yeah, no.
This is the Toonami?
The Toonami.
Oh, okay.
So you like the Adult Swim action?
No,
one better?
I just thought you were saying that. That's what
I like the original Toonami promo, so we're going to just show that promo because I like it still.
40 years ago, everything we knew was destroyed. The face of the planet changed forever. Survivors left without memories. In the aftermath, a new society has formed. In Paradigm City, the rich close themselves into giant domes, while the poor must live without protection. But one man stands for something more, and he does it in serious style. His name is Roger Smith, the Negotiator. His allies, an android, a butler, Big O. When they start a job, they always see it through. Enemies of Paradigm City, beware. There's a new robot on the block. Big O, starting Monday, April 2nd at 5:30. Good guys still wear black. Only Toonami.
So yeah.
And how many times we've said giant domes?
Giant domes. Yeah, Peter Cullen did the VO for that, and that read is something we've referenced as a joke many times.
Seeing earlier the 4 Kids dub for One Piece made me think of when we were watching Big O for the edits that we had to make, and Major was smoking, and Jason said, "Major, you just made a tactical error."
Yeah, 'cause we had to edit out the Major smoking in the first season of Big O.
All the dumb little things we've said over the years, we say continuously.
So yeah, I still love Big O. We still have the rights to the second season. And
Still have the giant Big O statue gracing the entranceway to Adult Swim.
Yeah, so the thing I love about Big O is he's very much a throwback to that giant Robo type old school, but instead of a school
down to the
kid.
watch.
Yeah, instead of a school kid, it's a badass James Bond type guy. So it's like upping the ante. So Big O for me will always be a favorite. I just love the design, the pistons for arms.
Yeah.
Like, it's just ridiculously cool. And then my final choice, which is one I told Gil I was going to do and he couldn't do, is the Iron Giant. The Iron Giant is possibly one of the best animated movies of all time. Well, not possibly. It is one of the best animated movies of all time. It is easily one of my favorite robots. Directed by Brad Bird, who went on to do The Incredibles and the
Mission Impossible 3.
Mission Impossible, and now Tomorrowland is his next movie. This to me was a totally, like, Warner Brothers completely miffed the release. You barely knew it was in theaters. I knew because I saw one commercial and was like, yes, giant robot, I'm in.
It was playing at the Garden Hills Art Cinema, and we went and saw it as a Toonami group, and were among 5 of the 12 people in Atlanta that saw it in the theater.
I saw it in New York while you guys were, because it was during the holidays, and I was with my mom. So I saw it in a mall in New York, and right after the movie, walked immediately to the KB Toy and Hobby toy store and bought a giant 18-inch Big O and a 12-inch Big O. And my mom was like, "You're out of your mind." And I was like,
I still have the 12-inch on my bookshelf at home.
and I still have the 18-inch. And now I think Mondo Toys just re-released the Big O, like a replica.
Oh, with the little
a remake.
magnet.
Yeah. I'm hoping for like a die-cast one at some point. But anyway, that's deep nerd shit right there.
Which is why you're watching. Thank you very much.
So let's show. You made this promo for the Iron Giant, as I recall, when we showed it on Toonami.
Yeah.
So let's show our promo in case for some reason you guys don't know the Iron Giant.
And you should.
Hogarth Hughes was just another boy. One night changed forever. Now he has what every boy wants. The only problem? The government wants it too. Special Agent Kent Mansley's on the case. He'll stop at nothing to discover the truth. Now, only the love of a boy and his giant robot prevent nuclear annihilation. The Iron Giant, Friday at 4.
It looks kind of like, because of the graphics, that like the nuclear
the
annihilation happened.
Spoiler alert, we're going to die, Mansley.
And it blew the Iron Giant logo into space. I think that was a hyperspace movie for us. I think that was hyperspace graphics. I don't remember. I don't like them. But anyway, Iron Giant, a timeless classic, still not available on Blu-ray. I was actually looking that up this morning, and apparently Brad Bird, Warner Brothers wants to put it out, but as a bare bones Blu-ray, and Brad Bird wants to blow it out, obviously. And it's like, the poor guy has done so much. Why would you not just...
Why would you continue to just crush his artistic dream on a great movie?
Especially when, I mean, it didn't do that well, but they didn't market it anyway. But in the years since, it's always on best of the decade lists and stuff. But anyway, I'm really happy Toonami got to show that. For me, that's up there with Akira as one of the movies I'm really happy that we got to show people, and Miyazaki movies. So those are my favorite giant robots. I will just say I didn't pick any Gundams because there were so many. I couldn't really just choose one. Tall Geese I'm a big fan of, but that kind of segues nicely into some of your choices.
Yeah, so my first, and this is sort of where you want to draw the line between robot, mobile suit, man in a suit, guy in a robot, whatever you want to say. So my first one is the Gulf Custom from the 8th MS team. And I really like the design. I like Norris, the pilot. I like that it's a sword in a world of guns.
It's a Zaku, right?
Yeah, so it's
the enemy of a Gundam.
Yeah, okay. And it's a custom, one-off is probably not the technical term, but it's a... he pimped it out for himself. He chopped it and lowered it a little bit, and
put hydraulics in there.
Yeah, just
ground effects.
So this is a clip from his sort of ultimate fight in 8th MS team, and we'll play that so you can see how awesome it is.
Pretty awesome.
So yeah, it's a cool design. I have like 9 different versions of that, and as a toy, I built the master grade. I just really like it. I didn't want to pick 2 mobile suits. Heavy Arms was going to be my other mobile suit that I really like.
Heavy Arms is
from Gundam Wing, for just the endless supply of drones that come from every possible orifice of that mobile suit. But so that's my first one. If you say it's not a giant robot, then get your own streaming show and pick your own favorite one. My second one is probably my first favorite giant robot, which is Voltron, and specifically the Lions Voltron. I had this toy when I was a kid. My brother and I had this toy, one of the few that we could share, sort of. And then I watched the show, and this was definitely a big part of my childhood, and just nostalgically a big part of Toonami. Like, I just identify greatly with this show, and it feels right at home. So this is the Formation, which if you haven't seen, you probably have already seen.
Just,
pretty great.
And also an insane idea. Like, whoever, I don't know the creator of Voltron.
Yeah, the thought process behind, I know what we'll do.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have robot lions, okay?
Buried underground.
But then they're all going to come together and form one giant robot with lion mouths for arms and
for hands
and feet, and then a lion face.
Perfect. Perfectly executed idea. I also had the Vehicle Voltron toy. I don't really remember watching the show, but that as a toy was such a huge pain in the ass because you could never get all the things together. You wouldn't stand upright. The feet would always fall off. That was one my brother let me play with by myself because it just...
He didn't like it. You didn't have to fight him for it.
So as I was going through and thinking of other giant robots, because Jason had taken the Iron Giant and also taken Big O.
Okay.
I realized, thinking about the toys and growing up with my brother, that we didn't watch Great Mazinger that I remember as a kid and great and as a show, but my brother had the toy, and I remember feeling like, oh, if this would be an awesome show, and I just didn't know. Like, I just was 3 or whatever.
There was no internet. So.
Yeah, so I found through the internets this toy commercial, and it sort of sums up our late 70s childhood. So here's our 30-second spot.
The Shogun Warriors. Guy King with rocket boosters. Great Mazinga with rocket launcher.
Look, it's Godzilla!
Is he friend or foe? You can decide.
Wow.
Launch his claw. Imagine his breath is a blast of fire.
That's a warning!
The large Shogun Warriors and Godzilla. They're ready to strike when you are. The Shogun Warriors, Great Mazinga, Guy King, and Godzilla, each sold separately. Accessories not for use with smaller Shogun Warriors from Mattel.
I like how the announcer sounds like the oldest alcoholic, like, the Shogun Warriors, not for you.
And they took those toys off the market like 9 minutes after they started selling them because kids were choking on the little things, which is funny because I never even saw the rockets because my brother lost them instantaneously. So I don't know how that you would have that as an actual trophy hazard, but maybe straight out of the box.
When I was a kid, I had the Godzilla and I had the Guy King, and as an adult, I still have the Guy King. I have when Bandai did about 15 years ago, they did a re-release of them. So I have that Guy King from my friends at Bandai gave me that because they knew I loved Guy King, but who also almost made my favorite giant robots list. Like, it was a close call, but I remember having Godzilla and Guy King fighting each other, and I lost the missile stuff instantly.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way.
And the kid down the street from us had Godzilla, but he only had the one hand.
Yeah, my guy lost his arm, and then I remember giving it to my little brother, and he asked me about it, and I was like, shut up! And, smack my brother in the face.
Yeah, so
good times.
Lots of brotherly love going on in the show.
So that's our favorite giant robots, but you guys went to Toonami.com/Facebook.com and
Facebook.com/Toonami.
Sorry, yeah. And submitted your favorite giant robots. We got a lot. We got thousands of responses, so thank you. So now we're going to talk about first, let's talk about the Adult Swim top 5 favorite robots. Liger Zero, pretty awesome. Big O, which didn't surprise me at all. Evangelion Unit 1, which is an incredibly badass robot.
Yeah.
And I came very close.
It was close for me as well.
Yeah. Moltar, and sorry, Adult Swim guys, neither a giant nor a robot. Moltar,
nor a giant robot.
Moltar does not fit this at all in any way. I would rather you said Tom because at least he's a robot. So you failed.
You get nothing.
You played yourself, Adult Swim Facebook.
But nice job on Voltron.
And then Voltron, yeah. So I mean, honestly, Liger Zero is a surprise to me. But other than that, none of them, and Moltar because he's not a friggin' robot. But the rest, not.
You scored an 80% on the test.
You did.
Adult Swim Facebook. So
thank you for that. And
B-.
Let's check the Toonami top 5 robots.
And clearly, no surprise as Toonami Facebook.
I mean,
Megas.
Megas is a great giant robot. Megas was number 1 easily. The number 1 choice for sure was Megas, which I am totally cool with, but which also surprised me. I thought it would be something like Wing Zero makes more sense to me in terms of it's part of a larger Gundam fandom that's been going on for 30 years. You know what I mean? Wing Zero is a badass robot or mobile suit. Liger Zero. And then Big O, perennial favorite. And Gurren Lagann, which again, is one of my favorites as well. But I think for me, the ones we chose were just sort of tied to our past a little bit more.
Which I'm sure is similar.
It's like whatever robot you fell in love with. It's like
it's your first giant.
Your first.
You never forget your first.
You never forget your first. So thank you everybody who commented, and please continue to do so. We are going to have a question of the week every single week, and
hence the name.
You guys, your responses have been amazing.
So thank you very much.
But now
we'll have our sneak peek and special treat. Special peek, I guess, is what we're calling this upcoming segment now. So this is a piece that Sarah, our editor, has cut together, sort of 2 pieces. The first of which is a behind-the-scenes look at her editing a Criminal Threats, and then
which is refresh people's memory.
So Criminal Threats is a soundbite that was from an old Fleischer Superman, and I always thought it was the Rocketeers, but looking it up this morning, it's actually the Bulleteers. So sorry if I've led you to the wrong Fleischer Superman all these years. But is the We Won't Be Intimidated by Criminal Threats classic now Toonami soundbite, and it's basically our sort of theme promo. It's not a lineup promo, but it is always representative of the shows that we have on.
I guess you would call it an image promo, basically.
Yeah.
It's a Toonami image promo.
An ongoing, a never-ending image campaign, 18 years in the making.
Well, we started doing them back in the day because we had so much airtime to fill, and we didn't necessarily want to do a promo, but we didn't necessarily have an idea for a particular music video.
Right. Which is sort of how they still are.
So we just threw some clips together.
And originally, before the Criminal Threats soundbite came out in the failed experiment promo, the Building You a Better Cartoon Show was how those promos originally aired, with Corey as the VO for the afternoon.
Oh, right.
That was the original Toonami image piece. But anyway, so this is still a look. This is a look at how Sarah's thought process in cutting these promos. This is definitely more of an editorial piece than it is a written piece, because we just use the same 4 lines that we've been using for 15 years. So our job's always really easy on the Criminal Threats.
Yeah, we just let the editors do their work. So Sarah's going to tell you how she made this Criminal Threats, and then we'll show you the Criminal Threats. So here we go.
Hey everybody, it's Sarah. Today I'm going to take you through the steps of making a promo for Toonami, and I'm going to be cutting a Criminal Threats, which is always a good time. So first things first, this is my office. I've been here for about 13 years and have had plenty of time to accumulate plenty of little toys and bric-a-brac and souvenirs and other fun things. Okay, down to business. The first step with most promos is you get a script. But Criminal Threats doesn't really have a script, so I move on to the next step, which is to watch a lot of cartoons. I want to watch a whole bunch of episodes so that I have a really great collection of sound bites and action shots and really iconic character IDs, so I have a good variety of shots to choose from as I'm creating the promo. Alright, shows have been clipped, and now it's time to pick some music. We have a catalog of somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 songs to choose from, so now I just kind of gotta go through and find some tracks that sound good to me. I like to pick a couple alternates because Jason usually changes at least one of them. This is what it all looks like as I start to edit. That's my little We Aren't Afraid of Criminal Threats soundbite. That's Tom's VO and little Tom 3D pops up there. At the end, got the obligatory Toonami M page. Now all I gotta do is fill everything in here. And that is the incredibly condensed version of how you cut a promo for Toonami. Jason and Gil have approved the cut, and I'm going to send it on to Brett to mix, and then it goes on the air. So I hope you've enjoyed this little behind-the-scenes look, and thanks for watching.
Every Saturday night at midnight, Adult Swim's building you a better cartoon show. We call it Toonami.
Toonami, every Saturday night from midnight to 3:30.
Yeah, those are always fun.
Yeah.
So Sarah, thank you for showing us how you make those.
And making a great spot.
Yeah, the lonely life of an editor.
In your sweet anime bric-a-brac cave.
So yeah, that will air this Saturday night, and then we also have a fan promo that I'm pretty excited about.
Yeah, so thematically fits in with our discussions here today pretty well.
Yeah, you guys have been great about sending us links to your fan promos to our Facebook page and also to the Adult Swim Facebook, and please keep doing so. We want to keep trying to show one every single week. Toonami fans are always great about sort of trying to use what we do as a platform to make some fun promos for shows or movies they like. So this one is a big O.
Should you just play it?
All right, yeah, we can play it. Let's just play it, and then we'll talk about it after. So yeah,
pretty great.
Big O Inception mashup, and normally I don't like movie mashup promos like that, but
but you like Big O and Inception so much.
Well, there's those two things, but also this is really like in terms of the lip flap.
Yeah, and it captures the emotional, like Roger Smith's yelling when Leonardo DiCaprio's yelling, and
everything is, and they have Dorothy when they have a woman talking. They have every bit of it was very carefully done so that it timed out right. It emotionally matched what was going on with the original stuff. And
it makes me want to watch Big O and Inception back to back.
I mean, double badass. So congrats to Ryan Romero, a.k.a. Darth Uriel, for using your evil powers to make a good fan promo. Normally, we wouldn't necessarily show like a mashup thing like that, but that was just so cool. We just had to feature it. And thematically made sense.
Tied in with our giant robot.
So the last bit we have for today is another episode of The Bloom Room.
So this is Steve at Emerald City Comic-Con, and he actually sent this to us last week, but we weren't able to get it together until this week, so slightly dated. So if your continuity is a little out of whack on your pre-flight syllabus, that's why it's not quite there. But a fun piece, and we really thank Steve for doing these, and hopefully you enjoy checking him out. So here's this week's Bloom Room.
Welcome to the Bloom Room. No, I'm not really smoking. I thought I'd bring you to the more glamorous side of the Bloom Room, this time in an airline toilet. I'm on my way to Emerald City Comic-Con in Seattle, and I'm going to take you guys with me. Okay, so this is how they pick me up, and this doesn't happen, just so you know. Actually, this is the way I live my life all the time. Anyway, welcome to Seattle. Just got here, just landed, and on my way to Emerald City Comic-Con. Join me, won't you? So here's a little slideshow of some of the people I saw throughout the convention. At a big Comic-Con like this, unfortunately, I don't have the time to walk around and shoot footage because I'm stuck at my signing table or doing panels. So I will do that on another Bloom Room. But in the meantime, here's a look at some of the shenanigans that went on. Oh, and speaking of shenanigans, one of the highlights was pole dancing with Mike McFarlane. But that's for another day. Hey, Bloom Room. We're here at Emerald City Comic-Con in Seattle with a few of my friends. Say hello, guys. Well, all of them have promised to tune into Preflight, right? All right, so if you guys all at once could say on the count of 3, only Toonami. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Only Toonami! On Adult Swim. So I'm back home safe from Seattle. Special thanks to everybody at Emerald City Comic-Con. I think these guys are pretty happy to have me home. Always good to go away, but even better to come home. I'm going to do some more convention reporting. I got a lot of stuff coming up, a lot of really interesting things coming up very shortly. So thanks for tuning in to the Bloom Room, and more to come. Peace.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so thanks to everybody who was at Emerald City who shouted out Toonami when Steve mind controlled you all.
And thanks to Steve for getting a crowd to shout us out. That's pretty good.
Yeah. And thank you for watching another episode of Toonami Preflight. You can like us on facebook.com/Toonami or at our Tumblr, tumblr.toonami.com.
Yes. And look for our question of the week coming soon.
And another episode next week. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Hello.
Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Toonami Preflight.
Is this episode 6?
It is episode 6.
Sixer.
6 in a series of 7, potentially.
I am Jason DeMarco.
And I'm Gil Austin.
And we run Toonami and are your hosts for Toonami Preflight. So, today's episode is the subject I thought of, and I thought everyone would enjoy, both the people who hate Toonami and the people who love Toonami.
Odds are, if you hate Toonami, I don't know if you're necessarily watching this. Would you hate watch Toonami Preflight? I don't know if that's the thing.
Maybe. But the subject is Toonami's biggest fails. So first, before we get to that, we're going to talk about Attack on Titan, which is a show that just returned to Toonami. We had to pull it from 11:30 because it wasn't doing that well. But
3 a.m. is
a little bit easier
we'll see how
time
it goes.
slot. We like the show enough, and we still have the rights to it, and it's cheap to do so. So we're going to try to run it at 3 and see how it does. So far, doing well.
Yeah.
So
one episode in,
looking good. So we're not going to talk too much about the story of Attack on Titan because we don't want to spoil it for those of you who might be watching for the first time. But I did want to sort of talk about how kind of what we thought of it and talk about our promo and the reaction to it.
Right.
And we're even going to talk a little bit about the live action Attack on Titan trailer that was just released. So Gil, you watched the whole series. What do you think? Why do you think it became sort of it's one of the bigger new anime shows that in the last 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I mean I would say that this is the first show that we've had on where probably a majority of people would have already seen the episodes in Japanese before seeing them in English. The first of the new Toonami shows where they exist in the world sort of predating Toonami, and especially our airing of them. I mean, I think that it hits a lot of people's sort of cultural trigger points where it's
giant naked people eating.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love giant naked people, sexless organs?
Cultural trigger point.
It's sort of a zombie show. It's sort of like a mech show. It's sort of like it sort of combines a lot of aspects in anime tropes that, in a way that hasn't really been done before. It looks really great. It looks new, which I think is obviously appealing since it is new.
Yeah.
It's obviously a hugely successful manga. Johnny Ray, one of our editors, was saying that this was probably his favorite anime, definitely since in the last 5 years or so, but he thinks potentially ever. And I was asking him why he feels that way.
Yeah.
And because he would volunteer to do the topical promos. He would want to know when the new episodes were coming in. He would want to see, like, no, I'll do that one. I'll do that. I'll do this. It's fine. I'll do this. And he said that it was because every episode ends on a cliffhanger and not in a sort of, may happen, like really perilous, what is going to happen. I want to see how this is.
And that's what I think. That's one of the reasons I think it took off so much, is because every episode is totally constructed to end on this cliffhanger where you're like, it just makes it a really easy show to binge watch.
Right. Which I guess potentially is one of the reasons why it didn't perform super great in reruns because obviously you didn't know what's going to happen.
But the thing about it reminds me sort of Lost, actually, because I feel like it does a great job of creating this larger mythos that they don't really tell you exactly why things are happening, and you're waiting to discover not only the mystery of why the Titans are even there or what they are, but also then the interpersonal dynamics of the individual characters and why certain things are happening to them. And they do a really good job of just parceling out bits of information. I do worry that, like Lost, that this story isn't really going to go anywhere that makes sense. But that's something that I think there's a whole thing with, in general, RPGs. It's a lot of that is not so concerned with resolving plot points in a clean way.
Right.
It's concerned with, just telling a cool story. And whereas I think
it's the journey that's important.
Yeah, I think the American tradition is like wrap it up with a bow or you totally failed.
Right.
And the Japanese tradition is more just, this is an interesting story.
How do you think that Chris Hartley, our director of production, who's a huge Lost fan, how do you feel like she would have? I doubt in full disclosure, she has seen many episodes of Attack on Titan.
She's seen a couple. I mean, she actually remarked to me that she was wanting to know what happened. I mean, like I said, it's got a good, it's similar to Dragon Ball Z in the way that they protract storylines and battles, especially, forever. But even within that, they always give you like a at the end. And I think that's sort of the key to why it's caught on, along with all the things you mentioned. And you're right, it was, and that brings us to sort of to talk about the promo a little bit. It was one of the first shows that Toonami aired that was a quote-unquote new show, but yet had already been seen by a whole huge...
was also a known show.
Yeah, just had a huge engaged fan base who were basically telling everybody to watch it. And when we aired it, a lot of that same fan base was mad because they didn't like the dub. Yeah. And they were pretty much already ready to hate it. But a lot of those,
I don't think is fair.
But no, that's totally not.
Everybody's a stranger till you make a friend.
But I think a lot of those people forget or don't care that Toonami's function is not just to
an anime delivery.
It's
service.
Not just anime. It is an anime delivery service, but it's one for people who haven't seen it. What they forget is when you're watching Adult Swim, there's around 2 million people watching in any given moment, and most of those people, or a large number, can be people who have never seen Attack on Titan before. So what we're trying to do is not only show it to the people who might want to see it in English or see it again, but expose it to a whole new audience. So that hostility that mostly weeaboos have, we just kind of ignore it. But it was interesting that when we were premiering the show, we were premiering a show with a set of expectations that already existed, as opposed to what we were used to from years of Toonami, which was we were among the first people putting something into people's homes.
Well, do you want to show the promo and
let's show our original promo, and then we'll talk about it a little bit.
100 years ago, Titans arrived. In the aftermath of that reckoning, humanity struggles for survival inside a great walled city, and Jaeger has spent his entire life inside those walls, wondering what's on the other side. Unfortunately, he's about to find out, because the Titans are back. They only want one thing: devour every human on Earth. Aaron and his friends will have no choice but to fight back against impossible odds or die screaming. The Titans are coming, and humanity is on the menu. Attack on Titan, premiering next Saturday night at 11:30. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
Yeah, so
you wrote that.
I did.
And you feel like, in hindsight, you wish you hadn't? Is that a fair explanation?
Yeah, it's more that...
You wish you'd made me do it?
No, I absolutely don't wish that I made you do it, because you wouldn't have done as good of a job.
You didn't do a good job?
No, I don't think I would say I wish I didn't do it. I just, the reaction to it was instructive to me, because it sort of made me realize the way we had been doing the promos with the voice of God was a cool thing, but it was probably time to move on from it.
Because somewhat dated at that point.
Because the younger generation that saw that promo commented like, "Oh my God, humanity's on the menu. Oh, the voiceover is so cheesy." Like, I felt like it probably could have been made in a way that
was more suspenseful and played to the
fans
shows,
more.
Yeah.
And I also focused on the horror angle, because that angle of the show to me as a horror fan is really interesting. The idea of giant naked people eating everyone is so scary and awful that, like, to me, I was like, this is a suspense horror show.
This is my nightmare come true.
Yeah, but even in retrospect, maybe that aspect isn't even what people really like about it. Maybe they like the adventure aspect, or the fact that there's this mystery about why the Titans are there, and what I was trying to do was set up the universe. But then people complain that it's not a giant walled city, it's countries, stuff like that. But so I don't really care about dub haters or people like that. But it was instructive, just that
it was potentially a time to start making promos in a new way.
Time to start moving on. And I actually think for that reason the teaser was more successful, and I really like that teaser, and I wish that I had One thing I do wish I had done was been able to sort of bring the feeling of that teaser through the trailer, which I kind of wasn't able to do. Let's check out the teaser. I love that because that's pure horror.
And that's definitely way scarier. I mean, even just sitting here, I was a little nervous. But
the fun fact, I was on a road trip, basically working, doing other stuff for Adult Swim at the time in Chicago, and I was writing these promos in a hotel room, blowing through episodes, and I was listening to tons and tons and tons of different classical music, Gorky, and different composers that do sort of atonal music. So I had this whole playlist of like an hour's worth of like scary atonal music, and Penderecki and like Berlioz, you know, all these composers that do sort of atonal classical. And at one point I ordered room service, and the guy brought the food in, and I was blasting this like and my waiter, I'll never forget the waiter being like, "You having a party up in here?" He just thought I was a crazy person. I was like, "It's for work." He's like, "Oh yeah?"
Party for one.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think that was not a fail, but a good lesson for me. Maybe a fail, I don't know.
No.
But so actually, this brings us to another thing which people are talking about with Attack on Titan, which is they're doing a live action. Attack on Titan is huge in Japan. It's huge worldwide, but there are multiple novels. There are 2 different prequel mangas. There are OVAs.
Right.
There's
almost outsold One Piece for the first time in whatever 10 years.
The only manga that's ever sold as many copies. And then so there's a live action movie that was announced in 2011, and it's coming out, I guess, this year. So they released a teaser that everybody's talking about. So let's look at that teaser, and we can talk about that.
Amazing.
I like the last shot. I mean, you know, people have different opinions. I think it looks. I mean, I'm probably going to see it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, why would you not? It's just give it a shot. But there was, I think it was before, because I think and I don't know if it's set up the company that was doing them, but there's a Attack on Titan Japanese Subaru commercial that, in hindsight, I should have found prior to this show. But it's like selling Subaru Forester with Attack on Titan, and it's like the omnidirectional vehicle for the future, like talking about the
get away from a Titan.
Yeah, that it's like that's how you can fight Titans is in your Subaru.
I mean,
Forester.
I think that just helps illustrate what a huge cultural impact
and
the show has had,
and what an insanely different cultural impact it has.
Yeah,
in the States, like
we have
dogs.
We have Godzilla commercials here,
right? Yeah, for the Mini or whatever it was.
But a Subaru commercial for Attack on Titan in the U.S. would be pretty crazy. All right, so let's go to a clip of.
Yes, so this is
episode 2 coming up?
So we have shown episode 1 in the new at 3 a.m. Episode 1 was this past Saturday. So this coming Saturday will be episode 2, and this clip is from episode 2 setting.
Or will it be episode 3 since this episode airs later in the? All right, cool. That's me.
Do you think you would have held the line at Maginot that day? The Titan stormed the walls.
No, I would be the Titan. That's me jogging.
Oh, no, I don't think so. You'd be the lumbering Titan.
I would be the lumbering Titan. So we actually have the Subaru commercial. Sean, our tech guy,
has the internet.
Has the internet, and he pulled it up. So why don't we check this out? This is a Subaru.
So Subaru, call us if you're looking for sponsorship opportunities, because we're giving it away for free.
Here, check this out.
Subaru Confidence in Motion ウォールマリア内地山岳地帯フォレスターはレイアウ進撃全方位 SUV フォレスター
I I mean, that's awesome.
I mean, yeah, if they'd only had a few more Super Enforcers in the beginning, the whole show might have changed.
I just love that it's giant naked. Only in Japan can a show about giant naked people eating other people become so popular that there's a Subaru commercial with a giant naked woman.
You know, honey, I think we do need a Super Enforcer.
That's pretty cool, though. All right, so that's all things Attack on Titan. I'm psyched we get to show it again.
So hopefully,
really like
if you haven't seen it, hopefully you will check it out because it's definitely worth watching. And if you have, maybe you can watch it again.
Yeah. So now on to our question of the week, Toonami's greatest fails.
It was really hard to come up with enough fails to fill a show over our run. It was just scraping the bottom of the barrel the whole way through. But we're going to do these in reverse order, counting down to our greatest fails. So this first one we show will not in fact be the greatest fail, but just the first in a list of fails.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about this first one?
Sure, I'll talk about it. So our first fail, this is Gil and my list. Our first fail is airing Wulin Warriors. Wulin Warriors, which is an Americanized version of a Taiwanese show that's called Pili, that has been around since 1985 and is one of the most popular shows in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, there's a cultural tradition where marionettes are it's not weird to watch a show about marionettes in Taiwan.
Not that it's necessarily weird here.
I mean,
it's big on marionette.
It's weird if it's an action show, I think, but for Americans. But so what happened was, this is when we were not in charge of programming decisions made at Toonami. So what happened was, I remember the meeting where the guys who adapted Wulin Warriors came to us and pitched it and told us it's this huge show. There's all these episodes. We're making 13. We're rewriting it to be right for American audiences. And I distinctly remember feeling in the meeting, this sounds like a really bad idea. And they asked our opinion. Our head of programming at the time asked our opinion. What do you guys think? And we said, this looks like a disaster, and we don't want to do this. And they said, cool. And then they went and made the deal anyway. So they got it super cheap, I think, because I think they told them, like, hey, we're kind of on the fence. And they said, well, just don't pay us a lot of money.
Right.
So I remember distinctly them telling us, look, we're going to show it. So figure you got to make it.
Get right with it.
And the next thing we said was, we're not going to make a promo for it because we thought it was
And then the next thing they said was, you have to make a promo for it.
They said, you're making a promo for it.
And then we said, okay.
So what we did was we made a promo in less than 2 days that we totally, I will confess, normally, if I'm told to dig a ditch, I will dig the best ditch imaginable. With this, I was so mad and bummed. I was just like, you know what? And I just kind of shat the bed on this promo. So, bad promo for a bad show. Check out the Wulin Warriors Toonami promo.
Trained from an early age, these swordsmen are Wulin's greatest warriors. Now, they must defeat one of their own to save Wulin from destruction. Wulin Warriors, Saturday, February 4th at 8 p.m. Only Toonami on Cartoon Network.
Adult Swim should potentially pick Wulin Warriors back up for the 4 a.m. block, because I think it would do a lot better as an ironic puppet show, marionette show, than it would as a afternoon kids action program.
I mean, the sad thing is, from what I've seen of Pili, it's not bad.
Right. This is not that.
This is just completely ripping This is what people complain about when they complain about dubbing.
Yeah.
They completely took it apart, rewrote everything, changed every character, and tried to make it hip and cool for younger kids.
Gave the mute guy a voice.
Yeah, just destroyed it completely. So this was never going to work, and it was pulled from Toonami after 2 episodes, but many people remember
which is definitely more work than just leaving it on for the week, and is fairly unprecedented to not just say, okay, we're going to leave it for these 5 days, but after this, it's going to be...
Yeah, it did so bad.
It was just like, nope.
So let's actually, I want to show you guys a clip from the show itself, just so you can see the level of shittiness that we were... Yeah.
We'll have to dump that. Horrible. Like, even with them explaining it, I have no idea what
not even that. I mean, it's the terrible VO and then the sub Wu-Tang wannabe.
Yeah.
It's just so... It's like everything I hate about condescending kids
pandering,
stuff. Yeah. like, and we'll get a hip hop song for the kids, and it's just like,
yeah, it just reeks of a bad marketing meeting.
Yeah.
That we then
that
had
went
to
too
eat.
far, yeah. So
For
again,
2 days.
so one of Toonami's greatest fails, although it wasn't our fault personally, but we did run it.
Toonami's greatest buck passing.
Yeah.
Number 6.
So, but let's go to number 5, which Gil, I'm going to let you talk about.
Yeah, so this will be on, and we asked on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Toonami, for your ideas of the best or the greatest Toonami fails, which we'll get to. This will be on no one's list other than our own, because no one will remember this or even knew it existed, which is one of the big reasons why it was a fail. This is the trophy that you would have gotten for the best trick
Here, I'll hold it up.
at the Toonami Click Skate Tour. And if you're wondering, what is the Toonami Click Skate Tour? You would be absolutely correct, because what is the skate tour? We have no idea. It was, we'll find a couple parking lots at regional malls and have 6 or 7 kids from maybe a local skate club come out and throw down a trick, and we'll tape it.
Who thought of it? It was a marketing idea.
It was a marketing idea, and I don't know if we're getting into name calling now, but it's it was not a terrible idea. It was just, hey, what do you think about doing a skate tour next week that'll be nationwide, that we're gonna videotape and put up online for hours on end with no editing and no promotion, not tell anyone about it, not do any grassroots marketing, and hope for the best.
And then we'll have a robot mascot.
And then we're going to make this rolling pin head skate tour trophy. Anyway, so we have the original spot, which you can judge for yourself, its own merits. This was setting up as a shoot in order to show what was going to be happening, and then a maintenance on it going forward.
I mean, in fairness, yeah, marketing brought the idea to Sean Akins, who ran Toonami at the time, and he is a lifelong skater.
Right.
And is the reason we interviewed a lot of skaters. And he, I think, hoped that, yeah, at its surface it was kind of weird, but it was a way to promote Toonami, and maybe we could do some cool stuff with skating. So his...
Right, and hook up some local kids. But it was, if we'd been given $1 million, then it could have potentially worked. The fact that we were given 75 cents in a week is why it failed utterly.
Yeah.
And if anyone out there has won one of these awards, please post your picture to our Facebook page with you and your Click Skate Tour award, because you are one of the few and the brave.
You know that's in the trash. Anybody that won it's in the trash.
We almost threw this trophy out 6 different times.
Yeah,
and
we just keep it as a reminder of what failure looks like. Let's look at the promo.
But if you won, you didn't fail. You won.
Love to skate? Got what it takes? Prove it. Enter the Click Street Skate Competition, powered by Toonami and Cartoon Network. It's going down. 11 cities, nationwide, all summer long. The Toonami Click Street Skate Tour. Step up, compete, and show your skis. For more info, hit up www.toonamiclick.com. Let the good times roll.
We never even bothered to name that robot, did we?
No.
Skatey, the skate bot.
Clicker, I think was his name.
Clicker, the click bot.
So not a terrible spot. You would see that and maybe think, where should I go? That's exactly one of the problems. You never knew where it was. You never knew when it was going to happen. We had an updated skate trick spot that would run on air.
Yep.
I mean, the kids who went seemed to have a good time. It was just, as a network marketing, you would hope for something larger. And this was sort of, I guess, one of the reasons why this is particularly sticks in our craws. Like, this was the one time that there was ever any large-scale marketing effort put behind Toonami, and it was just sort of...
Yeah, crap.
So anyway...
That and Coaster to Coaster. Those the two. But Coaster to Coaster was fun, though.
Yeah, that one we enjoyed, so that didn't make the list.
So the next fail is airing Tenchi Muyo GXP. This is one that pretty much we have no one to blame for but ourselves.
Yeah,
I would say so.
The first 2 buck passing stop here.
We passed the first 2 bucks, but this one's on us. I mean, basically, the way we chose to air Tenchi GXP is we have an agreement with Funimation. They have a library of titles, and among those titles are some Tenchis. And we thought, well, cool, you know, it's Toonami. This is like not a new Tenchi, but it's a Tenchi that's available to us that we can show that Toonami's never aired.
That we hadn't shown before.
And we watched a few episodes, and it was like, yeah, it wasn't great, but we didn't think it was terrible. And I kind of personally felt like it was sort of an interesting, like, hey, maybe we could show a show that has a little more comedy and like stretch our wings a little bit. I did not quite realize that in the later episodes it gets so fan servicey, and I also didn't realize, because all the Tenchi start slow, and I did not see all of this show. I thought it would do what all the other Tenchis do, which is that a show is just such a ridiculous asshole that it just never. It was like the same joke over and over and over, and it just wasn't very good. We left it on for its entire run, even though it didn't.
Because we're not quitters.
It didn't do well, but we wanted, you know, the people who did like it, we didn't want to screw them over. So, but as far as from all the shows since Toonami's return that we've aired, this is one of the only ones that I really can't stand behind, and I can't really say it was anyone's fault but ours.
Yes.
So we didn't even make a promo for it.
We owe you a Coke.
Because we didn't have time to make a promo for it then. But I will show you guys a promo that we found for it, so those of you who haven't seen it can get a sense of the show.
The only way Seina's luck could get any worse is if a spaceship crash-landed on top of him. And then, a spaceship crash-landed on top of him. Looks like Seina's luck has finally run out. But all that's about to change as Seina runs into a real pair of beauties who have their sights set on changing his fortunes. Will they succeed? Or will Seina fall prey to the bloodthirsty space pirates? Own the entire series, the Ultimate Tenchi Muyo GXP box set.
So yeah, sorry Funimation, it's not your fault. We just
it's just not a Toonami show.
Well, we thought maybe it could be, but it wasn't. And we wanted to show another Tenchi show because we always liked Tenchi and felt like I always enjoyed that Tenchi kind of, you know, it was what they call a harem show, but it kind of pushed us into a different place with a lot more romance and stuff. And I always thought that was cool. Because life can't all just be battling giant robots and waiting for Vegeta to show up.
Can't it though?
But it didn't work. So we'll own that one.
Our bad. Speaking of not Toonami shows, number 3 on our greatest fails is Hamtaro, which I do not think is actually a bad show. Was just very much not a Toonami show.
Yeah.
This was another one that we were highly encouraged / given no choice over to air, and that was just sort of the deal those days. Was just sometimes it was like,
we weren't in control of.
Here's the next show that we're putting on Toonami, and there was throughout Toonami's history there have definitely been peaks and valleys of our levels of control over shows. This happened to be, I guess, the deep valley, potentially the deepest of the valleys. But we have our promo for Hamtaro, which sort of goes to our thinking at the time. Let's just run that, and then we can talk a little bit more about it.
What's going on here? Oh, they are kind of cute.
Toonami presents the story of a rodent with mad skills. Saving the world one hamster at a time. Hamtaro. Monday, June 3rd at 4. Big things come in small packages. Play Toonami.
So, yes. I mean, there's a lot of peril in that promo, though. You really feel the danger and the excitement.
I worked on that promo, and I tried at the time. I originally wanted it to be a auto-tune song. Like I wanted to be. I tried to auto-tune my voice, going "one hamster," but I don't have enough vocal range because I'm not a singer. So we abandoned that, and then I decided, well, let's just lean into it and have Peter Cullen, the voice of God, on the VO and pretend like it's this big epic show, because it's quite obviously not. And I even remember asking the Ed Bear, who we mixed that with, an audio guy that we used to work with, shout out Ed Bear, to add that boing, 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 boing on the logo, because I was just like, this show. So that was like, I like Hamtaro.
Yeah.
I like the show.
Not a bad kid show. Good. I mean, it's fun.
It's a good show. Yeah. My beef was that it's not a Toonami show and so sticks out like a sore thumb, like that we were just angry, and you could tell like only at our network could we make an open where we're basically like, what is this bullshit, and get away with it.
Right.
You know?
Luckily, despite the fact that we were told what shows to put on, no one really ever watched what we were putting on, so
we could just make fun of our own shows.
So that was a small success wrapped up in a larger failure.
So now we're on to our two biggest fails, and
we definitely think that this is the order of these. However, in Toonami fandom, this may be an inverse.
Yeah, but we'll talk about your guys' selections on it that you posted to our Toonami Facebook page after this. But here we go. So number 2, Tom 4. Now, for those of you who don't know this story behind this, basically Toonami, obviously our host is Tom the Robot. Over the years we've had many different Toms. I think we've had 6 Toms total. And you can see behind us, that's Tom 4. He's got kind of a shit-eating grin. But so basically, how this happened, we should just tell the story of how this happened.
Right. So it was
as we
look
at what we did.
Like the technological advancements of making Toonami animation far and away outstripped any other television show, certainly any other kids television show. But I think that our 3D effects team was executing animation at a higher level than any other. We were using software that no one else uses for anything other than movies, which is RenderMan, to the point where we couldn't even have other people work on the show because they technically couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So the stuff, whether you agree with the designs or not, looked amazing.
Yeah.
But the design is obviously
a
huge factor in why people don't like this. The feeling at the time from Sean was very much that he wanted to have Tom have a face and have a larger group of characters and have it be more of an ensemble piece.
Yeah.
And from a network perspective, they were looking to age.
Yeah, Toonami had been on for a while, and Tom kept getting older, and at the time,
but the kids keep staying the same age.
Our demographic was skewing too old for the network. They wanted us to make an effort to keep appealing to younger viewers and not lose those new kids. So Sean, one of the reasons Tom changed a lot and the graphics packages changed a lot is because Sean, who ran Toonami, got bored a lot and kind of kept pushing us to do new things, which is great. And usually led to innovations that helped Toonami.
Right.
In this case, Sean too was kind of bored with Tom and Sarah and the whole dynamic and wanted to blow it up and start over with a new Tom and a new dynamic. He was the person who wanted Tom to have a face, totally disagreed with that, and felt like we don't have enough staff to animate something every week and keep it fresh.
You may or may not have noticed that we do not actually have new animation of Tom
very often.
But we do have new things all the time, and sort of the whole way that Toonami was structured, which Sean sort of set up, was that we would make a series of animation when we had the money, and then we would repurpose that moving forward, and then when we got a new batch of money, make a new batch of animation. With a mouth and lip flap and everything else, changed the way that we had to do the production moving forward. So not only was it much more labor intensive just to get anything done, we couldn't reuse any of it ever. So we couldn't make it for a promo and then use it for a video game and then also for another spot and an open and ad infinitum. So it ground our production abilities down to the point where we weren't able to put new things on the air very often. When they went on the air, from other than if you don't like the way that guy looks, it looked great.
Yeah.
But this was not the Tom that people had grown up with. This is not the Tom that people had grown to love. It's definitely a cuter look. Some similarities potentially to other properties have been mentioned in the past.
But let's look at. I think we have the open, I believe. So let's look at what we did back in the day.
Have one of the editors show you what you did.
Ready to make the magic happen? All right, boys, let's do this. Agawa Sanfa, showtime. Hey, Flash, give me a go, no-go for launch.
In the pipe, 5x5.
Word. Gotta go talk to the big guy. Hey, little man, what's up? Ooh, any dents? That's why you're a pro, baby. D, sit rep.
We're in the green. Deck is queued. First break in 6 minutes.
We are go in 5, 4, 3, 2.
So pretty.
There's a lot going on there.
Pretty slick. But
Yeah. Tom Kenny, voice of SpongeBob, as
D, my
named
favorite.
for Dennis.
My favorite character.
It was just a little overly ambitious, I would say, as a scope perspective, as a design element, not what Toonami fans had come to expect or appreciate.
Yep.
So that's where it was.
Yeah. I mean, I
certainly didn't.
I mean, we did the best we could with sort of what this was, but it sort of wasn't mine or Gil's decision, and we were just doing our jobs basically. But looking back, he is my least favorite Tom design.
Right.
I think. It's still Steve Bloom, so it still felt like Tom to me, and certainly when we wrote it, it felt like Tom. But he doesn't look like Tom.
Yeah, and just sort of the addition of more characters sort of changed the dynamic and changed what Tom was doing and how he was represented to the fans. And I think as a viewing experience, after whatever 7-8 years of seeing Tom on a spaceship pushing buttons, telling me about the shows with Sarah piping in once she came in, that this was definitely not that. So
and now, drum roll please, on to Toonami's biggest fail. Number one fail is Toonami got canceled.
And there was debate over whether we should have 2 L's or 1 L, and I said 2, and looking at it, I think we should have gone with the 1 L.
It felt either way. So
you're right and I'm wrong.
That's the type of detail that keeps Gil sharp, ladies and gentlemen. Set attention to detail. So yeah.
There's a lot of theories out in the world. Almost universally, all of them are incorrect on why Toonami got canceled.
Yes.
Illuminati conspiracies to our pizza franchise didn't take off the way that we had anticipated. But basically, it was TV shows are cyclical and ratings drive television. And when people stop watching things get canceled. And that's sort of the nature of all of the TV business.
Yeah.
There's no one's going to take off hit shows out of spite. On any TV network ever. So whenever you're upset that your show isn't being shown anymore, it's because no one else agreed with you. And you're not necessarily wrong. It's just television is serving up to the masses. So there's a lot of reasons why
anything gets canceled.
Yeah. But
yeah, we were basically, when Toonami got canceled in 2008, we did not know until a couple weeks before. We didn't know until a couple days before, but we
knew the writing was on the wall that it was coming. Right. It wasn't a huge secret to us. We had created an ending piece because we wanted to have something run and not just have it go
You and I
did.
We actually did it kind of in secret. We didn't tell anybody that we did it. And we actually built the ending with the silent bumps at the end of Samurai Jack. We did all of that sort of without telling anybody. And then when we showed it to Sean, and we're like, here we have this, and we just decided to air it.
So, and my memory of this, and this could be inaccurate, but my memory is that this was not too long after you had started you were active on Twitter, and people were interacting with you for, why don't you put this show on, as your personal Twitter account became, and you sent out a message, something to the effect, wanting to let people know that there was there, and it wasn't like, hey, check out this amazing thing at the end, but it was just like, stay tuned for a message at the end.
Yeah.
And I think universally everyone thought there was going to be some big announcement of something positive.
Something
and whatever
good.
whatever you personally felt like was going to come out of Santa Claus's bag was what you thought that announcement was going to be.
Instead, you got a big old
and
lump
then,
of coal.
Yeah, it was a steaming lump of coal. So this is our finale piece.
Our farewell to the fans.
That we thought was going to be the last thing that ever aired.
Well, this is the end, beautiful friends. After more than 11 years, this is Toonami's final broadcast. It's been a lot of fun, and we'd like to thank each and every one of you who've made this journey with us. Toonami wouldn't have been anything without you. Hopefully, we've left you with some good memories. So, until we meet again, stay gold.
And I know a lot of people have said that they thought Tom was just jumping off the platform to his doom and then flies away. But, I mean, we certainly, when we came back on April Fool's, we definitely had the hope that if that became something real, then it could turn into something real. But at that point, we harbored no illusions that Toonami was ever coming back again.
Programming blocks and TV shows are like restaurants or nightclubs. You don't expect them to last forever. You expect them to be as successful as they can, and most of them come to an end at some point. And we weren't, and the writing had been on the wall, and we weren't. I was sad, but we weren't mad or like, oh no, what are we going to do? Because at that point we were already working on other things, and we knew that television is cyclical. Even Steve, when we told Steve Bloom, the voice of Tom, like, hey, this is it, he was like, oh man.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, what? Like, he wasn't shocked because
the 3D department was a little more surprised when
they
we
were
asked them to make this final piece,
because that's all they did.
That was
their jobs. But yeah, so that is Toonami's biggest fail, is getting canceled, and I'm sure someday we'll have that fail happen to us again. But I like that. One thing I'm proud of is that we made an effort to say thank you to the people who watch, because you guys are the reason we do it.
I mean, that was a legitimate sentiment that we definitely felt. That I mean, we
still
didn't.
Still feel.
Well, at the time when we wrote it, and we no longer feel that way about you guys. So if you're watching now, I just don't really care. But no, I mean, that was definitely the sentiment that we felt, and I think that was. I mean, every week, month, couple months or so, we would get this is what everybody's sending in on voicemail. These are what all the emails are about. And as the media changed over, eventually it was like, these are all the Facebook posts and Twitter, and all of them. In the top 3, there was always bring back Toonami for years and years and years and years and years. And we would see that and just be like, it's not happening. Like, sorry.
But it did, and here we are.
So thank you very much. So yay!
So let's go to your Toonami, your guys' top 5.
Yeah, so first is the Toonami Facebook top 5 fails.
So let's leave this up for a minute and look at this. So number 1 is our number 1, which is what, getting canceled. Number 2, I completely don't understand where that is coming from and disagree.
Yeah.
Bobo is one of the best things I do not understand you. Do you have joy in your life? I don't think you do.
So that was a fail. To write that as a fail.
I mean, that came out of nowhere, because you know what? Bobo is a show that a lot of people come to me and say, will you air it again? So I think it's just one of those shows that sharply divides
It took a long time to get Peter Cullen to be able to say that intonation correctly.
Moving from the 4 p.m. time slot to Saturday night is number 3.
That's to Saturday, so instead of a weekday show. I mean,
I can see that. I mean, we shrank from every single night to Saturdays, and then lasted for a couple.
Your memory is it's after school, and now it's
just Saturdays. Losing the rights to Inuyasha, to me, sorry guys, I completely disagree. Adult Swim aired Inuyasha for years. We actually love Inuyasha, but it had run its course. And when you run something for many years, I think it's okay for it to go and move on to its great reward. And then we also made an effort to show what we're showing now, which is Inuyasha, the final act that wraps up the whole story. So, honestly, I feel like...
Wrote in on an even number of Toonami fails. You chose poorly.
And 5 was not airing Yu Yu Hakusho. I guess
so
that
I guess
means...
that's finishing the...
No, I think...
Or the currently not.
I think not running it now, because Yu Yu fans are a very passionate bunch. So... That's our top 5 Toonami feels. You know, look, Yu Yu, I love Yu Yu. You might see it come back. I wouldn't say never for Yu Yu. I love that show.
I also wouldn't say, I mean, we've done way worse stuff than that. So,
we've been way crappier than that, guys. So the adults,
try harder, number 5.
The Adult Swim top 5 Toonami fails are, there were some hilarious ones because it's Adult Swim's Facebook page. So it was like, existing major fail that you even exist. Showing dubs, you know, like... what I would expect on the Adult Swim Facebook page. But again, number 1, moving from weekdays to Saturday only, I think speaks to the way that they remember interacting with Toonami and enjoying it.
Not bringing back music videos seems... I guess that's a night of music videos is what people...
Yeah, I think they mean not... We originally ran a night of Daft Punk and all kinds of bands, the White Stripes, Gorillaz, not doing another night of music videos, which... It didn't do that well when we did it, but it stuck in people's minds.
But we still run music videos.
We run them
a lot.
We run them all the time, and more than any other TV network or block on a network.
Yes. So, once again, even numbers. Not stepping
number 3, taking Yu Yu Hakusho off the air. A lot of Yu Yu fans are mad because it stopped doing well in Toonami, and our programming department said, "We're not putting it in Toonami. We're gonna." Burn off the episodes because we
gotta have Hamtaro space.
We have a contractual obligation to finish the episodes, but we're gonna move it and we're not gonna promote it or tell people. And understandably, if you had been watching Yu Yu for a couple years, that's kind of a dick move. But that wasn't. Although people associate that decision with us, that had nothing to do with us. We didn't want it to go off the air; it just did. So
not a personal failure, but we'll accept.
Sorry,
general
Yu Yu fans.
Name.